Shalee Peters here with you on the Rural Radio Network, and we're down here in Kansas City at NAFB, and I've got here with me Dave Warner. He is the Communications Director with the National Pork Producers. So we're going to hit on some of those key topics that are affecting the pork industry right now. Why don't you start out by telling us about the TPP has been kind of a big news story and an ongoing story here with pork. Talk to us about that.
Well, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, is a regional trade agreement. There are 12 countries in there, including the United States. For pork producers, it also includes the United States' biggest export market for pork, Japan. So this is essentially the de facto World Trade Pact, because the WTO Doha round has kind of fallen off. This is the beginning of a multilateral big trade agreement. Got 12 nations now, but other countries are already asking to join. So this is a big deal. And because it is a big deal, we want a really good outcome for U.S. pork in it. And right now, there's sort of a holdup. Japan doesn't want to eliminate tariffs on a number of what they call sensitive products, including pork. And we're not going to go for that deal. Free trade agreements are about free trade. That means eliminating tariffs on all products, virtually all products.
Absolutely. Now, like I said, this has been kind of an ongoing thing. Has there been much progress with this, or are they still kind of fighting it?
Well, they're still kind of fighting it. The countries, or some of the countries, were meeting this week, in fact, during another economic meeting over in China. The president was there, and I think he was going to push for some progress with Japan. No, I don't think much has gotten done, and we aren't the only issue. For example, autos is an issue on our side of that. But again, Japan needs to realize that this agreement will set the precedent for going forward for other countries joining the TPP, or for us, and actually for Japan too, future free trade agreements. The next big free trade agreement we have that's going to come up is the one with the European Union. Whatever gets done in the TPP is going to set the bar. Well, we don't need a low bar. We need a high standard 21st century free trade agreement, and that means elimination of tariffs on virtually all goods and services.
Absolutely. Transitioning just a little bit here, another thing that the pork producers and agriculture in general is really struggling with here within the U.S. is the Waters of the U.S. rule. Talk about how that's affected the pork industry.
Well, this rule is could be very problematic for all farmers. The EPA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have proposed a rule to redefine or better define waters of the United States. And waters of the United States generally have been navigable water. So if you can row a boat in it, then it's a navigable water. The problem is that there are other waters that you can't row that boat in, but still would be connected to that navigable water. And certainly we're trying to protect all those waters. The issue here is that connection is now being broadly defined under this proposed rule, and could include, and while EPA will say no, it doesn't, the rule doesn't lay out specifically what is covered. It gives broad interpretations that, or a broad scope that could be interpreted to include ditches, and every farm has a ditch. Ephemeral streams, which are ones that only carry water a few times a year, not ones that have real connections to even waters that are connected to navigable waters. So and if that's the case, and EPA comes out and says, well, we think we should be regulating that, the farmer needs to get a permit for that to do just about anything on his or her land. And I mean, that's a cost that farmers don't need. And it's not so much even the cost, it's the uncertainty about the rule. Can I do this? Can I apply fertilizer on this field? Or do I have to get a permit first?
So a lot of hang-ups then with that. Well, any additional comments on some hot issues that are going on in the pork industry right now?
There's all kinds of issues that we look at all the time. There's always the antibiotic issue, and on a number of these, a lot of what we do is fight the misinformation that's out there. Some of the misinformation is just misinterpretation. Some of it's deliberate, though. We have groups that go out and essentially try to put us out of business, and they do so using misinformation, whether it's about antibiotics use or some of our other production practices. So those are things that we're fighting all the time, and we certainly appreciate farm broadcasters and helping get out the truth about how hog farmers raise and care for their animals, how they use animal health products very responsibly, and how they are very good stewards of the land and the water. So when it comes to this Waters of the U.S. rule, I think people need to realize that the best stewards in this country of the environment are probably the farmers who live on the land and drink that water. It's in their best interest, not only for their crops but for their families, to keep that environment clean.
Absolutely. Well, again, visiting with Dave Warner, the Communications Director for the National Pork Producers down here at NAFB. Thank you so much for your time today, Dave. For the Rural Radio Network from Kansas City, I'm Shalee Peters.